In the early hours of March 5, 1959, a fire broke out at a reform school for African American boys in Wrightsville, Arkansas. The fire claimed the lives of 21 boys who were locked inside their dormitory by the staff. The survivors escaped through the windows, leaving behind their friends and brothers in the flames. The tragedy exposed the horrific conditions and racial discrimination at the school and raised questions about the cause and responsibility of the fire. This is the story of the Wrightsville Massacre, one of the darkest chapters in Arkansas history. The Negro Boys Industrial School was established in 1923 as a juvenile work farm for black boys who were orphaned, homeless, or accused of petty crimes. The school was located in a rural area 1 mile from the mostly black town of Wrightsville. The boys were supposed to receive education, vocational training, and moral guidance, but in reality, they faced neglect, abuse, and exploitation. The boys had no books, no teachers, no classes. They just worked in the fields, picking cotton, chopping wood, digging ditches. They had no shoes, no socks, no underwear. They wore rags that barely covered them. They slept on metal cots with thin mattresses. They ate cornbread and beans, sometimes with worms. They had no access to clean water, medical care, or recreation. They were subjected to harsh discipline, corporal punishment, and racial slurs. The boys in the school were committed for being orphaned, homeless, or for committing offenses described as mischief and alleged petty crimes. The school and the treatment of the children became a fiery representation of segregation within the South during the Jim Crow era. The institution was a stark contrast to the white boys' school, which offered a variety of vocational trades, facilities, and opportunities. On the night of the fire, the boys were locked in their dormitory, which had no fire alarms, sprinklers, or exits. The staff left the premises, leaving the boys alone and helpless. Around 4 a.m., a fire mysteriously ignited, spreading quickly through the wooden building. The boys woke up to the smell of smoke, the sound of crackling, and the sight of flames. The boys tried to escape but found the doors locked from the outside. They screamed for help but no one came. They ran to the windows but found them covered with metal screens. They tried to break the screens but they were too strong. They tried to find another way out but there was none. They were trapped. Some of the boys managed to pry off 2 of the window screens using their bare hands, belts, or shoes. They squeezed through the narrow openings, 4 or 5 at a time, cutting themselves on the sharp edges. They jumped to the ground, some breaking their bones, some burning their skin. They ran to safety, some collapsing, some fainting. They looked back and saw their friends and brothers still inside. The fire consumed the dormitory and the boys inside. The firemen arrived too late and could not save them. The bodies of the 21 boys were found piled on top of each other in the corner of the dormitory where they had sought refuge from the flames. They were charred beyond recognition, some reduced to ashes. They were buried in a mass grave with no names, no markers, no flowers. The fire sparked an investigation, a lawsuit, and a public outcry. The authorities claimed that the fire was accidental, caused by faulty wiring or lightning. The survivors and their families claimed that the fire was intentional, set by the staff or someone else. The evidence was inconclusive, the witnesses were inconsistent, the verdict was controversial. The truth was never fully revealed, the justice was never fully served. The fire also sparked a movement, a reform, and a change. The school was closed, the staff was fired, the system was improved. The survivors and their families received compensation, counseling, and support. The victims and their stories received recognition, memorialization, and honor. The tragedy was not forgotten. The legacy was not erased. The Wrightsville Massacre was one of the worst tragedies in Arkansas history and one of the most important events in the civil rights struggle. It exposed the horrors of segregation, racism, and injustice. It inspired the courage, resilience, and hope of the African American community. It challenged the conscience, responsibility, and humanity of the American society. It is a story that needs to be told, a story that needs to be heard, a story that needs to be remembered.